Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate the achievements of women. One of the most important activities you and I can participate in is going to the polls to vote. Our very lives depend on us voting. This may sound extreme, but it is not. Almost everything that occurs in our lives has something to do with the legislature of our state. We are governed by laws made by elected people to tell us what we can and cannot do in our personal lives and in our professional lives. Therefore, it would behoove all of us to make time to vote during every election, no matter what. Nothing should come before voting. Standing in long lines for hours is an arduous task, but if we do not want to lose our right to be self-governed, standing in line we must. During this show, in part two, I'm going to introduce various clips from news shows where they discussed what took place in various current events that supports the proposition that we must always vote lest we allow these rogue agents from the opposing party to enact laws that will destroy our lives. These people have demonstrated that they care nothing about anyone or anything. The only thing they care about is money and power. And they will do anything they can to remain in power no matter what, including destroying their own country by destroying our democratic government. This form of government is the only reason why black men are not being lynched wholesale in this country. We do have laws to punish the bad actors who seek to annihilate the black man. Here are some of the short videos I would like for you to hear. Thank you.
Tired and feeling lonely.
Every day, prominent Republicans across the country tell us the threat that Donald Trump poses to our democracy.
January 6th was a riot that was incited by Donald Trump.
President Trump is responsible for provoking the events of the day.
They say Donald Trump is out of touch with reality.
He was livid and shaking and, showed a detachment from reality.
But sadly, these same Republicans say they will vote for him again.
If the president was the party's nominee, would you support him?
Absolutely.
The line of supporting Donald Trump starts behind me.
It's inconceivable to me that I wouldn't vote for the Republican nominee.
These Republicans are suffering from partisan derangement syndrome. At this point in the ad, I would tell you to call this number so you can help these deranged partisan Republicans. But sadly, they're too far gone.
Okay, cut.
Yeah? I mean, didn't Bill Barr just say verbatim that he's out of touch with reality? Right? And then they want to give him nuclear codes? What the f?
Back not only the Supreme Court hearing, but why so many Republicans are in hot water for the way they've gone on the attack. And guess who's here? Elie Mystal. He is known as a natural shot of espresso, but he's been caffeinating extra all week, and he's here live after this short break. Our Supreme Court confirmation coverage continues day 3 here of these hearings for Judge Jackson, and I'm joined, as promised, by Elie Mystal, the justice correspondent for The Nation. He's the author of a New York Times bestseller, Allow Me to Retort. And we're going to get right into it. Here's Senator Ted Cruz when he wouldn't even follow the rules as he tried to show that he was more upset than anyone.
Senator, would you please let her respond?
No, not if she's not going to answer my question. You have taken over a minute of my time, Mr. Chairman. So
you've been given extra time.
Come in at 57
time
months.
Has expired.
Why
Senators
did you
use 2 minutes over the allotted
57 months
please,
requested by the prosecutor?
Please, Senator.
Will you allow her to answer the question, Chairman Durbin?
Senator Coons.
Why are you not allowing her to answer the question? Chairman Durbin, I've never seen the chairman refused to allow a witness to answer a question. You can bang it as loud as you want.
Well, I can just tell you, at some point you have to follow the rules.
Ellie?
When is the day that Ted Cruz will be made to follow the rules? Because I haven't seen it. Please tell me when. I will sign up for it. I will sit there and watch Ted Cruz to be made to follow the rules. But right now, the Democrats won't do that. Look at what Chris Coons did in that situation. He was very nice. He was waiting his turn. That's not what I would have done. Once it's my time to talk, I would have started talking just like I did right now. Why couldn't Coons do that when Cruz is going over time? Right? Like, at the end of the day, people have to remember, and I know you do, Ari, where this screaming from the Judiciary Committee started. They love to bring it up, so let's bring it up. Let's go back to 2018. Brett Kavanaugh has been accused of attempted rape by Christine Blasey Ford. She has given testimony in front of the Senate. That testimony is compelling. That testimony is believable. Republicans have a female assistant, their word, not mine, cross-examining her. That's not going well. They take a break, and they come back, and Lindsey Graham starts shouting. He doesn't have a point. Speech. Doesn't have any evidence. He just starts crying and shouting, sneering, right? And then the rest of the Republicans start shouting. And then Brett Kavanaugh starts shouting and crying and whatever. And like that, we go from a serious hearing about a serious allegation to a circus caused by the Republicans to get their guy through. Yeah. And that is exactly what Lindsey Graham did throughout this hearing. He started screaming, and then the rest of the Republicans followed line.
I think there's value to you drawing that link, especially having watched these hearings, that it was the other side and their version of that history that came up a lot. You're offering a bit of a corrective. As promised, I mentioned to our previous guests and viewers, we're going to get into the QAnon stuff a little more. I'm just reading here from some of the reporting out of the Washington Post that notes Republican activists increasingly use this language of child pornography crackdowns. One experienced Democratic official, Brian Fallon from Demand Justice, says, quote, it's a sop to the QAnon element. And I just want to be very clear, there is a way to look at a judge's record, including their sentencing, that's going to touch on things that are unsavory by the very nature that they do criminal sentencing. And that's certainly valid. This seemed to cross over, especially as the hours wore on, into something else. Mr. Fallon, who has experience in the Justice Department, sees it as this. Can you walk us through what may or may not be, but it certainly is an accusation of an effort to link this to broader conspiracy theories that anyone that the right wing disagrees with are part of a secret international cabal of pedophiles?
First, let's remember, why are we talking about sentencing at all? This is a Supreme Court appointment. The Supreme Court is an appellate court. It doesn't sentence people. It reviews sentences, but it doesn't sentence people themselves. So even going into this part of the history of her judicial history is a bit of a non sequitur. So now we have to ask why they're going particularly hard into child pornography. Now, again, they're not actually talking about the child porn cases because all of those cases, they don't have anything on her there. So now we're talking about the subset of cases, which is a nuanced position of people who are not accused of doing the child porn, but looking at the child porn. And that's where you get Lindsey Graham. Well, I think looking is just as bad as it. Well, so do I. But we have sentencing for that. So they're trying to massage this very nuanced point. We know, we have evidence that this kind of allegation is believed by the QAnon crazies on their side and leads to direct violence. You know who else knows that? The Republicans making these arguments. You know who else knows that? Ketanji Brown Jackson. Why do I know that she knows that? Because Ketanji Brown Jackson is who sentenced the Pizzagate guy, Ed Welch. He was sentenced for his crimes. He got 4 years. The prosecutors asked for 4.5. She downward departure from what the prosecutors asked for, gave him 4. You know, it's interesting, don't you think, that of all this talk about sentencing, Jackson actually sentencing the Pizzagate guy, that has never come up from the Republicans. I wonder why. Yeah, so this is important.
I just want to underscore it because you talk so fast, I can almost barely keep up. I just underscoring, you're referring to what I was discussing with Dahlia, that a right-wing conspiracy theory online followed by someone who was sadly violent and deranged, and they showed up in Washington where they thought they were going to bust up a Clinton-esque pedophilia operation, and people got hurt. And as you say, as a local D.C. judge, federal local district judge, she was the one sentencing it. I have one more thing to play for you, but any final thought on that?
Well, I just want to say, again, she is primed to be hated by the people who are most susceptible to these allegations, right? That's
right.
The connection that's important for people to understand.
Yeah, and I think you make that clearly, and you have a mastery of the details, which is helpful because there's a lot to get through here. This is a new comment we want to play so people understand just what's going on in this intersection of law and politics. It has been illegal for a long time for states to try to ban people from different races from getting married. You have the right to marry whoever you want, regardless of race, in America. And yet, when it comes to interracial marriage, this is new today, in an interview from Republican Senator Mike Braun this week.
So you would be okay with the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage to the states?
Yes, if you're not wanting the Supreme Court to weigh in on issues like that, you're not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. I think that's hypocritical. We're better off having states manifest their points of view rather than homogenizing it across the country as Roe versus Wade did.
That is a very outlandish claim. He's also referring to the idea that the states would then have the power to ban marriage between people of different races. The story really blew up today. That was recorded yesterday. Then he later said today, quote, that he misunderstood the question and says, quote, "There's no question the Constitution prohibits discrimination of any kind based on race. That's not even up for debate. And I condemn racism in any form at all levels and by any states, entities, or individuals," end quote. I want to make sure people have the whole story. The original response is striking. His words are there, so people have the context that he is clearly saying afterward that he's against racial discrimination and that he's not standing by what you just saw on your screen. Ellie, your response.
This is a classic Republican two-step where they say they're against racial discrimination, but they also say that they are in favor of the very kind of legal thought processes that led to the discrimination in the first place. So what Braun is talking about is a case called Loving v. Virginia. That's the case that allows for interracial marriages to happen in this country, and that was decided on substantive due process grounds, that people have a substantive right to marry. And because, as Marsha Blackburn has been saying, you have to have where's the right to marry? The right to marry is not in the Constitution. We have inferred that the Constitution must include a right to marry under the right to privacy, which is a function of substantive due process, which Republicans don't like. So they sit there and they try to come at substantive due process, the right, which goes into the right to contraception and all this kind of stuff. They say they're only concerned with Roe v. Wade, but occasionally the mask slips, and it shows that if you take away substantive due process, if you take away privacy rights, there's an entire legal canon that is built on privacy rights that includes the right to marry, that includes the right to contraception, and yes, includes the rights on abortion before fetal viability that crumble away in their zeal. Just to put the last point on this, leaving something like interracial marriage to the states, Alabama even though interracial marriage had been long allowed by the federal courts, Alabama still had a vestigial statute banning the miscegenation of the races, as they called it in Alabama. That did not come off the books until it was put to a popular vote in the year 2000. That's how recent it was. And that's how close we could be again to those kinds of laws if people like Mike Braun, John Cornyn, and Lindsey Graham get their way.
It's really striking, and as you say, the history is instructive, and if you hear people saying, well, I'm not for X, in this case, banning people from being able to marry regardless of race, but I'm for allowing a state to do X. You don't have to go to law school to question, well, gosh, why is that so important? Why is allowing a state to do this thing, in this case, rank racist law that's been completely thrown out, why is that more important than the other rights? In this case, and again, I want to be as comprehensive as possible. People will make up their own minds. He has now said what he said in retracting it. I showed that quote as well, but it was striking. Ellie, on a lighter note, I promised people that you would be the embodiment of an espresso, and I don't feel that you disappointed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Let's always keep John C. Calhoun and his states' rights theories in the past.
There you have it. Ellie gets the last word on that. We have our shortest break, which is 1 minute, and we turn to the story of a Trump ally breaking with new accusations about stealing the election and potential criminal conduct. Maya Wiley returns when we're back in a minute. We're back. News and a revelation from a longtime Trump ally. Republican Congressman Mo Brooks was so in on the Stop the Steal rally that he spoke at it on January 6th. Then he crossed Trump by saying Republicans need to move on from the 2020 election. Now Brooks tells NBC that Trump asked him to somehow overthrow the entire election, which he doesn't have the power to do, and which, of course, could violate the Constitution, depending on the actions you take, could also violate criminal law. He says Trump was demanding this as recently as within the last 6 months.
Did he directly tell you to fight to decertify the election, the 2020 election?
He did not use the word decertify. He used the word rescind.
And then immediately remove Joe Biden. I guess that would be through impeachment?
Through the rescission of the election results.
Did he directly say that there should be a new special election for the presidency?
In one of the conversations, he mentioned having a subsequent election for the presidency.
Maya Wiley rejoins us on this other topic. What do you see here as the evidentiary value of this? Forget whether people like Mo Brooks or not. He seems very close to the current state of mind of requests that would be potentially illegal.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable because one of the things that both Congress and the January 6th committee is trying to discern is how engaged and involved was Donald Trump in the decision making? And we've already heard from Liz Cheney that there's evidence that suggests that he was participating in a crime. Now, what Mo Brooks is essentially saying is, yeah, he asked me to participate. Now, this goes directly to state of mind, right? One of the things that makes these cases difficult is that prosecutors would have to prove, assuming we were talking about prosecution, prosecutors would have to prove that Donald Trump had the intent of defrauding the United States or engaging in an insurrection. And really what Mo Brooks is saying is, yeah, well, he asked me to help him rescind the election. I mean, so the words will matter here. And in a little bit of what I heard in some of the exchange was Mo Brooks trying to walk a line that maybe I couldn't tell if he was trying to help make sure that it was less clear how directly engaged Donald Trump was in saying, yeah, interfere with Congress directly. But he says rescind. That's a big word, one that prosecutors would look at, and I think it makes clear the spirit with which Donald Trump had entered this, which we already know because there's a huge public record. But this is one more piece of that puzzle, one more piece of evidence that goes to Donald Trump's state of mind, and that does matter.
At what point does an individual's active and here documented efforts to overthrow an election to subvert democracy become a disqualification for office in our democracy?
Well, as you know, Ari, Donald Trump wasn't impeached and he wasn't barred by Congress from running for office. You can actually commit a crime and run to be president. Under our system, there's an assumption that people won't vote for criminals. We just talked about the hearing that we just saw, confirmation hearing for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, someone who has been upholding the law. We saw her being vilified because she was applying it in a way that some senators took issue with. Donald Trump, do we take issue with that? That's going to be for voters to decide if he runs, particularly Republicans, when they have to decide who their nominee will be.
Yeah, it's a great point you make, and by linking these two developments today, what you're really reminding people is how seriously can you take the supposed anti-crime outrage, anti-criminal outrage over there about issues that are serious but might be used selectively when there is this complete support and cowardice in dealing with the ongoing criminal conspiracy to end American democracy. That's worth thinking through, as you say, because of the outcome of that impeachment, because he was not convicted or disqualified. It remains an open question in our democracy. Maya Wiley on more than one story, and we owe you the Keegan-Michael Keel anger translator call. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We got you. Absolutely. Thank you, Maya.
Be not afraid. Faith sees best in the dark. A battle between democracy and autocracy, between liberty and repression, between a rules-based order and one governed by brute force. And now, in the perennial struggle for democracy and freedom, Ukraine and its people are in the front lines. My message to the people of Ukraine: we stand with you. A former president named Abraham Lincoln, he said, let us have faith that right makes might. All the world democracies have a responsibility to help, all of them. And the people of Ukraine can count on the United States to meet its responsibility. Rather than driving NATO apart, the West is now stronger and more united than it has ever been. And finally, most urgently, we maintain absolute unity. We must among the world's democracies. We must commit now to be in this fight for the long haul. We must remain unified today and tomorrow and the day after, and for the years and decades to come. It will not be easy. There will be cost, but it's a price we have to pay, because the darkness that drives autocracy is ultimately no match for the flame of liberty that lights the souls of free people everywhere. Time and again, history shows that it's from the darkest moments that the greatest progress follows. Never, ever give up hope. Never doubt. Never tire. Never become discouraged. Be not afraid. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Just listen to me a second without booing or cheering. I mean this sincerely. We should really think about this. His cynicism is unbounded. His lack of empathy and compassion can be summed up in the phrase I suspect he's most proud of having made famous: you're fired. I mean, really, I'm not joking. Think about that. Think about that. Think about everything you learned as a child, no matter where you were raised. How can there be pleasure in saying you're fired? He's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey. Tell you. Folks, whatever he thinks, and I mean this in the bottom of my heart, I know I'm called Middle Class Joe. In Washington, that's not meant as a compliment. It means you're not sophisticated. But I know why we're strong. I know why we have held together. I know why we are united. It's because there's always been a growing middle class. This guy doesn't have a clue about the middle class. Not a clue.
Well, Republicans reached new lows today in their conduct in the Senate confirmation hearing for President Biden's nominee to the Supreme Court, Federal Appeals Court Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Lindsey Graham, who is the second longest serving Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, asked a first question that is unconstitutional in our government and would violate the law if you asked this question in a job interview. Lindsey Graham and the rest of the members of the committee have never faced a more qualified nominee for the United States Supreme Court. None of the 115 members of the Supreme Court in the court's 232-year history have been more qualified to serve on the court than Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. A few nominees may have been as qualified as Judge Jackson, but absolutely none of them have been more qualified. That didn't mean that Republicans came to the hearing today with smarter questions. It means that they reached for new lows, beginning with Lindsey Graham's first question, which was, what faith are you? Never mind the improper use of the verb to be. A person is not a faith or a religion. A person is a member of a religion or a follower of a religion, and that religion can change. Just ask Marco Rubio, who went from Catholic to Mormon to Catholic to evangelical Christian, and now is back to Catholic once again. So don't ever ask Marco Rubio, what faith are you? In a confirmation hearing, that question is not just objectionable, it is unconstitutional. Article 6 of the Constitution says no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. And Lindsey Graham's first question was a religious test. The chairman of the committee should have immediately gavelled that question out of order on constitutional grounds. Not long ago in the United States Senate, the word chairman was synonymous with tough. Not anymore. Lindsey Graham knows what he can get away with, which is why he added minutes to his time after his 30 minutes had run out when he improvised a raging filibuster about Guantanamo Bay, which a tough chairman never would have allowed him to get away with. But knowing he can get away with anything in the Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham's disgraceful, unconstitutional first question to a Supreme Court nominee was to ask her to reveal her religious affiliation. The nominee could have, rightfully, refused to answer the question and chose to teach Lindsey Graham a constitutional lesson, but she decided, as nominees usually do, not to fight the insanity of small-minded men who believe the world belongs to them.
What faith are you, by the way?
Senator, I am Protestant.
I am going to pause for a second to take a short break while you listen to information regarding willpower and encouragement. It is all a matter of learning new behaviors. And please remember, it is easier to build strong minds than to repair injured people. What I said is a modification of a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Now,
life is at its best when you get to the mountaintop. Nevertheless, at times we lose our way and land in the valley. Adversity comes and shakes us in fear. What do you do at such a time? Where do you get your strength when it's gone? Be Not Defeated in Hard Times is the book you need to overcome such fears and gain back your strength. It's cheap, $10.95 only. To purchase this book, log into https://touchedbythelight.us/regular-publications before it's out of stock. For the past 2 months, I have discussed breast cancer in Black women. Recently occurred to me that I had not heard from males in the area. Not one man had written or called me for information on breast cancer, nor has any male volunteered to help our breast cancer campaign. This caused me to wonder why. I hope the answer is not that males think breast cancer is a woman's issue. It's not. It's a family issue. It's a marriage issue. It's a community issue. It is an issue that concerns us all. The loss of one member of our community is devastating. Everyone is affected by the death, either directly or indirectly. The death of a parent can lead to angry children and devastated husbands. The death of a parent can lead a child to criminal behavior. Breast cancer is serious business, not just because of the death, but because of the aftermath, the horror breast cancer leaves behind. This is why, as a community, this disease must be fought at all costs by all of us. You have mothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and granddaughters, all at risk for breast cancer. Yes, women die of other diseases, but breast cancer is the most insidious disease of them all. I noticed I have not seen one man download the PDF file, Black Women and Breast Cancer, and send the file to any of his female relatives or friends for that matter. Why? You are concerned. So I would like for you to participate with me. Go to https://nisv.info and download the PDF file Black Women and Breast Cancer and send it to 5 of your friends. Also, please sit down and read the booklet. It's filled with information. One of the most important things about the disease is that we understand it. By understanding the disease, we can ask more informed questions of our doctors. Do you know how many people die or are injured each year because they take medication improperly? There is a reason why pharmacists insist on putting warning in our medication. This is why it's important that you learn to read. Medication errors are a problem with people who cannot read or are afraid to ask their doctor questions because they don't want to appear stupid. When you go in to see your doctor, it's not your job to try to impress him or her. You want their talents to impress you. So if you don't understand something, say so, and ask all the questions you need to feel comfortable taking your medicine or understanding your illness. The same with your pharmacist. Ask him or her questions until you feel comfortable taking your medication and you know how to take your medication properly. I received a medication in the mail. I did not know how to take it. I read the directions, but it was not clear to me how to take the medication properly. I was truly frustrated because I knew I was a competent reader. I drove down to the VA Medical Center and asked the pharmacist to show me how to take my medication. The pharmacist didn't say a word, but she came out, sat down, and demonstrated how I was to take my medication. And she discussed the actions the medication would have on my body. I left her knowing more than I did when I arrived. On another occasion, I received a phone call from a pharmacist, and she told me immediately to stop taking 2 of my medication because there was a contradiction. Both medications had been prescribed by doctors, but it was the pharmacist who noted that error. So don't feel stupid asking questions of your doctor or pharmacist. That is their job, to help you with the care of your body. This is why the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer is so important. It's filled with information. The information is presented in such a way as to make you aware of what you did not know or understand. This awareness should prompt you to ask questions of your physician. All cancers are not the same. This is why family history is so important. The booklet was also written to let Black women know that their cancer can be more virulent and more progressive than others. The book was also written to inspire Black women to become more involved in the research of their particular breast cancer. Who's doing the research? Where is the research being conducted? And how is this research being funded? And by whom? I believe we can have a significant breakthrough with cancer if Black women become more aggressive in funding research. Join us to support our campaign by purchasing a book. See our advertisement. We have great gifts for men.
But the Wall Street Journal described the practice race-based preferential COVID treatment. Said that's what it is. You get it based on race. In fact, in New York State, if you're white, you have to go to the back of the line to get medical help. Think of it. If you're white, you go right to the back of the line.
My job didn't require me to watch the recent Trump rally, but I did it for another reason. And it was hard not to notice the Black people standing and cheering behind 45, particularly because that's what the camera really wants us to see. I mean, they were all wearing white shirts which said Blacks for Trump 2020.com that were likely given to them when they showed up to collect their checks for being there. This is an improvement. There's usually that one guy, Black for Trump, at his rally, strategically just to 45's left, because if he moves a little bit in either direction, he would either be behind the podium or completely out of frame. And what's the point of having one Black person there if you can't see him? The stop making everything about race people suddenly seeing color and having t-shirts readily available to mark all of the Black people that are there, just close enough to feel the false claim that white people are discriminated against in New York. Speaking of, Trump will try to claim us.
Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Look, voting is one thing, but supporting is another. And these props, as they're being used, are for a man who settled out of court for discriminating against Black people refusing to rent properties to black people, and lying to black applicants about whether apartments were available. Also, when Donald and Ivania came to the casino, the bosses would order all of the black people off of the floor, said a former employee at Trump Castle. They put us all in the back, he added. 45 called for the execution of the exonerated five, formerly known as the Central Park Five, when he believed they attacked and raped a New York City jogger. Trump has not apologized for taking out local New York ads demanding bring back the death penalty, bring back the police, and he's had years to do so, and DNA evidence proving their innocence. There's been a lot of actual white crime and domestic terrorism too for him to openly, sternly condemn before and afterward, and he hasn't for some reason. By the way, no matter what color you are, if your reply to Trump's clear history of racism is, well, Biden is racist, then you're telling me that black people may not have much of a way to avoid voting for or supporting racist presidential candidates. How is that better? And if you tell me that Trump provided billions in funding to HBCUs, then you're giving him credit for pretty much signing a bill that he had little to do with. Buying black votes is big business, and further proof might be at 45's rallies with Blacks for Trump. Good luck trying to get this VIP treatment at Mar-a-Lago. For Rebel HQ, I'm Jeff Wiggins. My architect knows Japanese. For more from the Young Turks, stay right here. If you want to see content from yours truly, click on the hashtag below. I can also be found on all socials at He Gon' Be Alright. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I decided that at the end of every show for the next year, I would share excerpts from a book that I believe would enhance your life and make you a stronger thinker and problem solver, all characteristics that will help you win at life and raise stronger and healthy children. Many of you turn your nose up at reading, or you snub the advice that you must read in life to succeed, or you compare the cost of a book to getting a new pair of shoes or getting your hair done or your nails done. The reason why you make these cost comparisons is because you do not truly value a book. A book is a magnificent instrument that can change the course of your life and the lives of your children. In later shows, I plan to discuss with you how a book changed the lives of certain people. I understand that you do not earn a lot of money, and this money is valuable to you because of all the things you see advertised that you desire, and you do not want to spend a lot of money on a book. A new pair of shoes is more valuable to you than a book. If you truly cannot afford a book, then you need to go to the library and take your children with you for a day of reading. You must gird your loins and proceed at educating yourself. Some of you seem to think that having a conversation with your stupid girlfriend or your stupid boyfriend will help you more than reading a book, when actually having a conversation with your loudmouth girlfriend or loudmouth boyfriend is merely a cathartic, allowing you to blow off steam and proclaim how life has been so unfair to you. What you do not realize is that the advice coming from your do-nothing girlfriend or your do-nothing boyfriend is advice coming from a fool. Your do-nothing girlfriend is a sexual opportunist looking for a man she can impress with her body. When her vagina fails her, what will your girlfriend do but go to work at McDonald's or Wendy's at the age of 60 and continue to spread her ignorance at church? Her daughter will be on the street and her son in prison. She will never realize that her life is the result of the decision she made not to educate herself through reading. All her life, she felt that she had something better to do than reading. She had something better to do than reading with her children. She had something better to do than working with her children. And that was going to the bar, trying to entertain a man, or trying to find some man that would buy her a pair of shoes. A man spending money on her was more important than educating herself. In later shows, I'm going to spend a great deal of time giving you some examples of fools. These are people who think they are smart, willing to trade their body and integrity for a dollar bill. These people end up in the cemetery after lamenting each and every day of their lives about their unfilled dreams. Do not be upset by the use of the word fool. You tell me if a woman is not a fool to instruct her grandson to kill her husband for a $25,000 life insurance. Let that sink in for a moment. Instead of instructing her grandson to make something of his life, the grandmother instructs her grandson to become a murderer, to kill his grandfather. I have this anecdotal advice for you about reading. Listen to this short true story. A friend and I were talking. She said a woman she knew called her and sought to renew their friendship. During their conversation, the woman told my friend that President Trump had done so much for black people, and that's why she voted for him in 2016, and she was going to vote for him again in the upcoming election. My friend asked her a question. She said, "Tell me some of the things that Trump has done for black people." The woman said, "A whole lot." My friend persisted and asked her to name one thing that Trump had done for black people. The woman could not. The woman kept using the phrase, "a whole lot of things." My friend said after a while she stopped talking. Finally, the conversation was over and my friend hung up. My friend said, as she hung up, she made up her mind right then that she would never renew her friendship with this woman. Now ask yourself why. Why would she not renew her friendship with this woman? You can answer this question in 2 words. The woman was a poor thinker. She never investigated anything that was told to her. Whether you know it or not, a person who is a poor thinker, who does not examine his or her thinking, is a very dangerous person indeed. Think about it. Today we're going to discuss a popular book entitled The Devil's Cauldron. On the first page of the book, The Devil's Cauldron, the author says, "Do not let the book title frighten you. The book has nothing to do with black magic, voodoo, or any other dark practice. The book was written to demonstrate that some people have a filthy mind and are unaware that their thoughts are filthy. Once you read the book, you will know if you are one of these people and why. Why else would a woman conduct a campaign to steal another woman's husband if she was not evil? Why else would a man sneak behind his best buddy's back and sleep with his wife if he was not evil? You will not want to put this book down. It is a fascinating read for sure. The mind can be a sewer, yet evil thoughts are not always profitable or beneficial. Evil thoughts can lead to your ruin. The author then asks the reader a question. In fact, she asks the reader several questions. She says, are you having an awful time at life? Are you unhappy with the way your life is going? Are you unhappy with the way that you are living? Do you feel like you're the only person feeling this way? Are you constantly being pressured to make one decision after another with no end in sight? Do you wish that you could start all over again and meet new people? Do you want to make differences in your life and you do not know how? Do you feel like no one is listening to you? Do you feel like no one understands you and what you're going through? If you feel this way, then it's about time for you to change. That is correct. It is about time for you to change. It is about time for you to disengage yourself from the world system and try God. It's just that simple, because the world is leading you astray. If you have finally decided to give up and are at your wit's end, then it is time for you to try God. You have tried all of the world systems to no avail, so maybe it is time for you to try God. You do not have to worry about failing because God will show you the way to prosperity, health, and wealth. You can be a success at life. He will improve your family's relationships. He will move you to a better neighborhood. He will see you through college. And he will find you a successful mate. But what about your evil thoughts? These thoughts will have to change. Change does not have to be seen as something awful that one must endure. Change can be an enjoyable process, especially if you are hopeful and have a vision of the person you will become. Do not be like those people who are always thinking negative or forecast gloom and doom at every turn. You can bring happiness and peace into your life by changing. The author says you can bring peace and happiness into your life by changing your associates, changing where you do business, changing your employer after receiving a better education. You can change your home life by renewing your commitment to your wife or husband. Change is possible in every facet of your life. If you begin to be hopeful, you can look forward to a new day. Hope will enter your life through the Word of God. So begin to study God's Word and expect good things to come into your life, even in the midst of danger. Now, that's a powerful statement made by the author. She says that you can expect good things to come into your life, even in the midst of danger. That means in the midst of a pandemic. You read the Word of God and you are led to change. Embrace this feeling and be confident that renewal is a possibility in your life. You can become a new person. The author tells her audience that the book, The Devil's Cauldron, was written to give men and women some of the same tools that she used to fight for her life. Men and women have to fight and fight just to be given the same opportunities as other educated, wealthy men to develop their lives. Women are constantly told you must be beautiful. You must be pretty to make it in your life. You must have a large buttocks. You must have a large breast to make it. Men have to like you if you're going to be somebody. You are no one if you are not married. Women are constantly told what to do and how to do it every day by the church. The church is on a mission to bring women back under control. The church tries to indoctrinate the mothers so their girls cannot play basketball or baseball. They don't get the same education as boys. Female children are not encouraged to attend college so they can seek jobs in corporate America, because these jobs should be given to men, because men are the ones responsible for providing for the family. This is all wickedness. This is all evil people talking. Why should the church conduct a campaign to enslave the minds of women? What benefit does the church derive from trying to deny women their rights and custody to their own bodies? The author goes on to say, if I have learned anything in this life, it is that one must always move forward and play the hand that life has dealt. I wrote this book as a quick reference for people who become depressed during their day. You may want to carry this booklet with you every day so you can constantly remind yourself of God's promises. You may feel frustrated because you married a man who could not manage his money. So you are taking your anger out on yourself or on him. He didn't tell you to marry him. He asked you to marry him. There's a difference. Instead of being mad at yourself for marrying him and taking it out on him, look for a solution. If a man can come on television and tell you to take a purple pill for what ails you, and you follow his advice, then you definitely can follow the advice to save your life. There is no right or wrong answer, but there is always a better answer. but it requires thinking to get to the better answer. Let the weak say, I am strong. Joel chapter 3, verse 10. You do not have to participate in evil deeds. You do not have to have evil thoughts. It's up to you to make the change. It's up to you to stop looking about what other people have and start trying to develop your life for yourself, for your children, and your spouse. The book, The Devil's Cauldron, is a rough read, but it will definitely not only entertain you, but bring you insight into the minds of how people think. The best thing that you could do for yourself today is go to the website, touchedbythelight.us, and read the first chapter of this book. You will be definitely glad that you did. This video was brought to you by the Women and Children's Restoration Ministries. Why not email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com and learn about the programs we have to assist women. We welcome women who wish to participate. Surely you have a few hours each month to help us with one of our programs. We believe that one of our programs, Recruiting Citizens, The Wall Project, Black Women in Cancer, Teach Someone to Read, will interest you, where you might volunteer once a month to help us. Our primary function is to assist women in changing their lives. Email us today. We would appreciate your help. Our lessons are viewer supported. If you enjoy our lessons and they have been a help to you, please send the Women of Courage Show a donation. Any amount will help. $1 will help. Spread our message. You can also go to our website, touchedbythelight.us, and purchase the book, You Are the Prophet of Your Life. We support ourselves through book sales. The book is also on sale at the radio station WHPR 160 Victor Street in Highland Park, Michigan, right off of Woodward Avenue. If you do not have internet access, you can make a donation to us by mailing it to Post Office Box 7688, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan 48302. Your support will be greatly appreciated.
This is a discussion of the book, Be Not Defeated in Hard Times. Resilience is a trait we all need in this life in order to push through during difficult times. The writer uses quotes that illustrate concisely why and how you get the strength to carry on. Instead of thinking negatively about your life every time something goes bad, it tells us to be hopeful and trustful of the Word of God that promises good plans of success for those that follow His Word. Every time you fall down in life, stand up. When you feel defeated, pray and trust that the Lord will guide you out of your problem to victory. Why should you read this book? It's encouraging. The book is filled with quotes and passages that will keep you going during tough times. It teaches us to be resilient and persistent when pursuing things in life, despite the hurdles and impediments that we face. Assuring, we are taught to trust in our abilities and also God, that He will lead us through the good and tough times with the best plans for you and those that believe with you. It assures us that we shall not feel alone if we walk with the Lord and heed His words. Strengthens your faith. In the book, we see instances that the writer tells us to leave it to God. However, it is not to say that we should be lazy and complacent. Instead, we are reminded that faith without actions is dead. Therefore, we should believe that God will help us achieve what we plan to as we work for it. Gives alternatives. The book gives advice on how to handle matters when they are hard. The best advice is that you should try something different. A change is always the beginning of something new. Thus, changing might unlock new doors and get you out of positions that you're stuck in. Hopeful. Despite the hard times we face, all the moments we feel beaten down and out of breath, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. The book illustrates that quite well and shows us that there is always someone we can tell all of our problems to: God. Moral guidance. Quoting explicitly from the Bible, the writer gives us a path to follow as we walk with our Creator. As we make decisions in life, we can refer to the book and make morally upright and good decisions that will aid in our prosperity. Fruits of the Holy Spirit. From the book, qualities such as self-control and patience are emphasized and taught. We therefore can learn how to acquire them and be better people. They help us deal with issues critically, leading to good choices. Emotional control. Anger clouds our judgment. Learning how to control it and temper our rage and other emotions significantly makes us better and more prepared for hard times that we always face in life. Politeness and wisdom. The choice between whether to talk back or keep quiet is a rather hard one and needs the wisdom to discern. From reading the book, we can see why politeness or being quiet entirely is the best option and when you should stand up for yourself. Too many Black women are still dying of breast cancer. We need to be more aggressive in our fight. Please join with the Women of Courage show to help save women from breast cancer by purchasing one of our books to raise awareness of this issue. Receive a free gift with each book purchase. For more information, call 734-786-3233. Our entire collection can be seen at www.touchedbythelight.us. Also, please go to www.nisv.info and download the PDF file, Black Women and Breast Cancer, and send the file to 5 of your friends. With a little assistance, you can help us fight this disease. When we work together, we win. Thank you. Minister Gloria Lee.
Join us at the Women of Courage show every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. for information that will change your life. You can also visit us at our website, touchedbythelight.us, for more information. Thank you. If you do not like your life, then change it. Listen to us when we broadcast, and we can help you find a new way.